As my panelists get ready to start this discussion, I will do a short introduction when everybody's sitting comfortably. And 1, 2, 3. No, I don't need one. It's okay. I'm going to stand up, mostly. Okay, so the purpose and title of this session is about blockchain and cybersecurity. So everybody assumes that blockchain is secure, right? Tokenization is secure. But in fact, actually, as we know, there is all scalability, there is speed, but security is a very important part, and we all have many examples. So I'm just going to start off by introducing the panelists briefly. Then they will introduce themselves, and because there's 5 panelists here, I actually want to give them a chance to talk about their recent experience of something bad that's happened, and what the problem is and what the solution is, and how you approach that. Does that make sense? Everybody happy? At the chance, there'll be a few chance for a few questions at the end, and these guys are all experts in their own field. So I'll start from the far end just very briefly. We have Jorge, Sebastiao. Jorge and I have known each other for 20 years here in Dubai, and we've sort of had lots of experience of cybersecurity before blockchain. So Jorge is there, and we've got Ali Al-Khamis here. Ali is from Abu Dhabi, but works in Dubai and Abu Dhabi here in the UAE at the government level with some of the largest organizations, and we'll talk about it more from the UAE perspective of cybersecurity. Dr. Naveen Singh here. Naveen is here. He's got his own layer 1 blockchain, which is going to the root cause of securing the blockchain. Naveen, I'm sure, is going to talk about that. We have Julian Sauer here. Julian is from Germany, but Julian works in Abu Dhabi with the Royal Group and his company, and he's going to explain that. And he is a technical expert in this field. And lastly, we have Matthew van Niekerk. Matthew is the co-founder and CEO for a company called Settlemint, who's actually building a lot of blockchains for governments, financial organizations, telcos, and large enterprises. So we often think about blockchain and the B2C, but very importantly is blockchain and the B2B as well. So with that, I will actually therefore maybe start in the middle and ask Naveen to introduce himself. If you want to, Naveen. If you don't, you can decline, and I can pass it to somebody else. You want to talk about this? So I'll prompt the question. The question is, everyone thinks blockchain is secure. So what's the relevance of having a security discussion on blockchain here at GITEX 2022 for the block stage? Down at the bottom.
Hello, everyone. That was tricky. So, quick introduction. My name is Naveen. I'm from Switzerland, and I'm a founder of Layer 1 blockchain, which is focusing on the cybersecurity. Actually, the data management, the blockchain is just designed to have a secure management of the data. Because in the end, what happens in the breaches is always the data which gets compromised. So, thank you, Angus. I think, as you have mentioned, blockchain is equivalent to security. Why blockchain is so important? Because everybody thinks that blockchain is secure. Well, from the fundamental technical design, it should be secure. But then we have this trilemma, which everyone is trying to solve. But few companies now are coming close to solve it. We don't have to forget that we are really in the early stages still in the blockchain. You know, we had the proof of work. It started with Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then proof of stake came. And then in proof of stake, there are different other things came, and now you have even the proof of mathematics and a lot of other things coming. So every enterprise or every blockchain is solving an issue, but the focus should be on security. That's what I personally feel. Whereas a lot of blockchains, they compromise on security and go to scalability. Now, if you compromise security for scalability and speed, then there are gaps which are hacked. But I would just like to quickly point here, when we see different hacks having in different ecosystems or on chains, it's not normally the blockchain. It's always the bridges which are connected to the blockchain. So having itself a full public decentralized blockchain it's very, very tough to hack it or compromise it in terms of security.
Thank you for that, Naveen. Come back to you later on. I'll go to Julian, Matthew next, and then I think everyone in the panel probably agrees with what you've said. So Julian, here you are working in the UAE with lots of customers. What do you see in your day-to-day work on security and blockchain?
Hi guys. So I just want to jump in right in there.
Julian, speak
can
into
you?
the microphone
Yeah.
like this.
Now it's better. Okay, awesome. So yeah, regarding blockchain security, he just said it really correctly. The best design for blockchain infrastructure is decentralization. So decentralization of validator nodes, meaning different clients hosted on different cloud providers or on-prem, or managed by different teams, meaning decentralized bridging services, Oracle systems, or exchanges. This would be the best setup, but at the moment we see there are a lot of centralized points, and decentralized points are usually where the hack happens. As you mentioned, the bridging services are very famous. The Ron and Bridge hack of 600 million was in March, and you could see actually they weren't decentralized. They had 9 validator nodes, and 4 of them or 5 of them were breached, and private keys were extracted, and that's how the hack happened. So if you have a decentralized setup, you actually are very secure, but we at the moment don't see that.
Thanks for that, Julian. Okay, Matthew, so you get any real-life stories to share, and a bit about your background, what you're doing, and your experience with customers in real security vulnerability situations?
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, at Settlemint, we're a high-performance, low-code platform for building blockchain applications, and we focus on the public sector, private sector, with clients in financial services and government. So of course, security is a top concern. And some of the examples where I can share the applications that are being built on our platform. One real practical one, we're working with an SME, not an SME, sorry, but a medium-sized commodity trading company. And they discovered that there was a man-in-the-middle attack with their email system. So they were not a huge company, so they weren't investing sufficiently in cybersecurity. And what was happening is they were sending invoices to their commodities trading companies using their services. Invoices occasionally were being intercepted. The bank account where money needs to be transferred to was being modified, and then being passed on to the intended recipient. So a simple man-in-the-middle type of situation. And they looked then at the investment it would cost to upgrade their cybersecurity system, and looked at other alternatives because that was quite cost prohibitive. And they found that if we take a hash of the original document, provide that to the customer through another app that they can use, and then the customer, when they receive the invoice, they can scan that the QR code of the original, and if the hash retrieved from the QR code on the invoice that the user or their service received didn't match, then of course they know it's not a correct invoice. So they know it's been tampered with, somebody's intercepted it and been doing it. So again, what they looked at is multiple different ways to approach it, more conventional approaches with heavy-duty cybersecurity email services versus a blockchain implementation that they decided in the end, from a cost-benefit perspective, to go with the blockchain-based solution. That's one example. There's maybe one last one, is the importance of securing data exchange was mentioned. And one of the platforms that Settlemint has built is called Data Broker. And Data Broker is a peer-to-peer data exchange platform. So by decentralizing the process of access controls to data that companies want to monetize on the platform, there's no central point of failure that's created, no major, let's say, centralized storage of the data. The connections are made peer-to-peer, so the buyer of data on the platform is connected directly to the data warehouse of the seller of the data. And by creating that peer-to-peer connection, the vulnerabilities that would otherwise be introduced through centralization of the data storage are completely removed.
Thank you for that, Matthew. Okay, Jorge, you've been in this industry forever, in security and in blockchain. So what's your take on this discussion?
Okay, first, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jorge Sebastiao. I've been in security for about 23 years, so most of it in the Middle East. More specifically regarding to blockchain, good news is blockchain is a technology of trust, and it was designed on proper mathematics and cybersecurity. However, it's like any other system. Everything is hackable and everything is kind of insecure. So let me give you some points to just think about. First, when you think about security, you have to think about securing the whole system, not just the blockchain. So blockchain may actually be only 5% of the entire solution. So you have to think about securing, for example, the front end, the back end, securing the mobile app. So is your mobile secure, the operating system in which it runs. You have to secure the crypto wallet or the digital wallet. If that is not secure, maybe the blockchain is, but the rest is not. And even more important than that, the weakest link is usually tends to be the user. So if the user does not get the proper security awareness knowledge, we can fool the user into sharing their passwords or sharing information about them. Even a simple thing like, for example, if you look at the iCloud backup, was backup your entire wallet with the private keys, which was enough for somebody who hacked your iCloud to actually get your entire wallet. Now, iCloud may not be very valuable, but you may have a $500,000 NFT sitting in that wallet. Beyond that, many other things. Of course, we have all heard about the hacks. Every exchange is hackable, so don't keep your monies there, because just use it as an exchange. Take the money out as quickly as possible. Even the more secure devices that we call cold wallets are also hackable as well, because they are made of hardware and they're made of software. There's something called firmware inside that wallet, and sometimes that firmware also needs to be updated to make it more secure. The biggest hacks, more recent, obviously, is the bridges. On average, anywhere from $100 to $400 million. More recent, probably Binance, 100 million, Axie Infinity, 400 to 500 million. You have to think that if you hack a bank and you have to steal $1 million or $1 billion, you need a truck. If you are trying to steal a digital wallet, it doesn't weigh anything, so it's actually very easy. Last point, even the blockchain is also hackable. Maybe not 100% today, but you have something called quantum computing, which is coming. It's already partially available. So not all the blockchains today are what we call quantum resistant, which means that if you use a quantum computer, you'll actually be able to break some of the information inside the blockchain. So you have to start thinking about also upgrading the blockchain algorithms and consensus mechanisms to be actually quantum resistant as well. So sorry, the news is a little bit bad, but it's not that bad. You have to think that security is not technology, it's a continuous skilled process. So you have to continuously upgrade from time to time, and that's what makes you secure. You may be secure now, but after 1 hour, 1 week, security is gone.
I love George's answers. They're always extremely comprehensive, end to end. So, George, thanks for that. We'll build on that during the rest of the discussion. So, Ali, it's a privilege and honor to have you here. You know, from the UAE, from Dubai. Dubai, we're all here in safe Dubai, so in safe UAE. So, you know, can you add on this, and from a UAE perspective, how you're dealing with enterprises, with governments, with funds, etc. So, can you give the UAE's approach to this, because it does seem like it's different from other parts of the world.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Yeah, most of the panels, my colleagues here, majorly touched on the technical side of things. You have to go back and understand the culture side, the growth of the country, which is 50-year-old, and there's so much more to learn. And for us within this current infrastructure and understanding this cybersecurity issues that we have from a government sense of point, from a semi-government, private sector sense of point, there is a new understanding to come in here. The understanding of the 80s and the 90s in the financial side of things, that was an IT department. That's it. They had an IT department looking at specifics, where cybersecurity wasn't the main issue here. And most of the profiling happened with the bankers are done into B2B, into businesses side. That's where their expertise were. When it comes to individuals, they were looking at them as profiling them. High net worth individual, low net worth individual, and that's where the buck stops. Then coming into the Y2K era, we had the jump and the biggest software developers coming in, developing stuff. Security was a thing at that time, and that was another learning curve for the country. Here as a culture, It's a very close-knit culture. Everybody knows everybody. We're all neighbors. So the idea of security was based on trust. Now coming into breaking through into the international market, having a lot of people coming in, understanding technology is the base and the growth of the country and the direction where the government is leading, where the private offices are leading, semi-government's funds are looking at it. And 2008 changed the whole aspect of cybersecurity, where people had developments of apps were hackable. Then from there, the blockchain came into the sense, and the government of Dubai took the first step of doing e-government. That was the first initiative coming into a whole worldwide stage, looking at the security side and putting emphasis on cybersecurity. We have banks, they're secure. You never heard of them being hacked as much as you hear that the crypto side of things, the blockchain is being hacked. Everybody's attacking the side of things. For the banks at this stage, they look at their clientele base. The data there is so important, it's so valuable, that protection and that availability of funds by the government, by the private offices, by the private entities, putting in place just a specific large budget to make sure nobody is pretty much breached, every individual. And they know they might not be breached because it comes through them. They're all gonna be breached due to this weakest link, which is us. We pretty much sometimes become very lenient with our security internally. That is where the downfall happens. But regarding the government and their outlook, they're taking cybersecurity very seriously. We have a unit in Dubai Police, we have a unit in Abu Dhabi Police, we have the national security taking a big charge into this. We have litigations, policies, regulations for all aspects to come and combine the strength to look at the best practices worldwide and developing the best culture within the ecosystem that drives the Middle East, not only UAE, towards the best. This is what we look at. And I hope one day we can see decentralized 100% nodes. I might conflict with that later on with you. Thank you, guys.
Ali, thank you very much for that local perspective on it. And it's very important because it's not just about technology. It's about people, processes, and technology. And Ali's given us a cultural view of that. So this time round, maybe I go in reverse order from Jorge, Matthew, Julian, back to yourself, Nazim. So what would you like to add to that, Jorge? This is probably, you only get a chance to say 1 point because of time. So.
Well, let me talk, since we just had the Metaverse Assembly, okay? In the Metaverse Assembly, what we're doing is we're combining the blockchain with immersive reality, or augmented, extended, or we call XR. So we are actually having a lot more data to protect. We have multi-level models, like 3D models to protect, not just the digital wallets, not just the blockchain. So the problems that we're trying to solve are getting actually much more complex. The good news is that we have systems in place to help you address that. So I invite you to go to something called xrsi.org, which is it's a free group that was created out of California to actually help you protect blockchain and metaverse environments, immersive environments. So it looks at the risks associated with using these technologies, not just for financial applications, but for example, military applications, or for example, medical applications. So in some applications, you cannot have 1% hack, because this hack can result in somebody being injured or hurt. It's not just about losing money. It's actually protecting people that are using these systems in the real world. So go have a look, and you'll find some interesting frameworks to understand security in a better way. The work is done by a lady called Kavaya Perelman. She's from the Middle East. She worked at Facebook, but she's in California, and we assist her for the last 4 or 5 years.
Jorge, I love it, because you really go in depth, and I love it, because security is a deep subject, and security and blockchain. So, Matthew, security and blockchain, what would your point be, your closing point be to the audience?
I think that just maybe to summarize a little bit, but to kind of push back against one of the things said about quantum and how we all have to be ready and afraid of that. But I think, there's vulnerabilities are, just to recap a bit, but vulnerabilities are introduced through centralization. And it's often the applications that are built on top which introduce the vulnerabilities to the underlying technology, which is by design quite secure. And about quantum resistance and that, I think the upgrade to be quantum proof for a blockchain is not a big lift. That's changing the hashing algorithm from something that, look at MIST's guidance on what are the encryption algorithms that are quantum resistant and quantum proof. And when quantum computing is available, I think that, let's say, perpetrators that are utilizing that for their own benefit, they will eat every bank for breakfast, and they'll eat everything else for lunch, and then they'll come for blockchain for dinner. So if the vulnerabilities are there, I think they're a lot easier targets in blockchain to go after.
Julian, you're dealing with customers every day, and you're looking at it from a technical and services point of view. You're looking for vulnerabilities. So what would your closing point be for the audience?
So I would say, regarding banks, the threat lies in stealing data. And blockchain is more like digital valuables. And banks have a very high security level already. They have really good tools in place. If you look at blockchain industry, I mean, the security monitoring tools they have, if they have them, they're not that level as the banks are. So they still have to catch up on that point. Then regarding, for example, Round and Bridge hack didn't even have a monitoring system in place. The hack was discovered by the user itself, where it said after 6 days, they were like, this is not working as it should be. And then they reported it, they looked into it and said, oh yeah, we got hacked. And I think there's a big challenge for that part. Blockchain, the thing is, the main thing blockchain is solving is in the fintech industry. And as you already said, banks are a massive target for cyber attacks. Now blockchain is revolutionizing this industry, so they are as well a massive target for that. And we have a new technology in place, for example, these smart contracts. I mean, Solidity is in version 0.9, which already shows it's under hard development, and software which has been developed has a lot of vulnerabilities, and not like, let's say, banks which use like the Java version 20 or even higher, which we could say, okay, here they have, they already know the breaches, they know the attacks, and now they just have to mitigate them. And it's all about identifying and monitoring. You will never eliminate cyber attacks. It's all about having a clear view where your valuables are and how you can mitigate these attacks.
So Dr. Naveen, thanks Julian, thanks for that. Your whole purpose is to solve this problem, right? He was talking about earlier on about being a layer 1 blockchain that solves some of these. Do you agree or disagree? What's your point to the audience?
So first of all, I would like to thank you, Angus, for being such a great moderator. And you told us before that we don't have to agree with each other, but unfortunately we have to agree with each other because it's an amazing panel. Ali has just brought the light on the psychological and cultural aspects. Jorge has been really deep into tech. It's a very good points. I mean, I have to agree with every one of you, so sorry for that.
Universal agreement so far. That's not healthy for debate.
Well, I have been into professional athletes for 25 years. I have enough of the combat. I am now in the harmony. So on the last point, I would just like to say that I agree with every one of them. We have to see here two things. There are the breaches of the data or the hacks. Now, what happens in the hacks? It's always either private keys or the tokens. It's all in the form of data. Now the data gets hacked. Facebook got hacked. Uber got hacked. All our personal data gets hacked into the blockchain system also. And then, as I said before, we have to see deeply where. The one thing which we are lacking is on all the ecosystems, all decentralized apps are still using centralized databases. Now, centralized, you cannot program anything without a database. Either you must have a relational-based database or non-relational, but you need to have a database. There isn't any decentralized database in the world. So what that means is a database fully based on a blockchain. And that's what we are trying to solve. So the layer 1 blockchain is just the fundamental layer. We built the first decentralized DB. And the motive or the aim is what we are talking now. So provide all Web 2.0 and 3.0 companies a tool where they can use a decentralized database. So their data is on the blockchain, completely decentralized, not IPFS system, the distributed ledger system on all the nodes, and you can only access it with your private key. Now, if you lose the private key, oops, you have lost the data. But as long as you have the private key, you can always access the data 10 years, 15 years from now, as long as one node is online. And I think that's a true decentralization. And here we have to see that there are a lot of big companies which are saying we have built the blockchain or we came to blockchain. But I would just like to say to the audience, last thing we have to see is it a private blockchain or is it a public blockchain? Guys, there is a massive difference between those both. A big company can say, okay, we have a blockchain, so we put all of you together as nodes and all of you are connected with each other. That's a private blockchain. There is a consensus between all of us and we can actually manipulate the blockchain. Whereas the public blockchains or Ethereum and Bitcoins are the blockchains which are on self-running mode, and that's the real blockchain. I mean, that's the holy grail of the decentralization, and that we should really look into when we talk about the cyber attacks on blockchain.
So Naveen, we've just got 2 minutes and then we're going to finish this, but I've just learned something new. You're claiming to have the first decentralized database on blockchain.
Yes, we are claiming, and we have just launched the public testnet, so it's public blockchain, open source, and we didn't accept it, but expected it, but from the response of the developers all around the world, we have more than 1,000 master nodes registered in last 4 weeks who are testing the blockchain constantly. I don't know where they came from, but that shows the power of public blockchain and decentralization.
There's going to be lots of questions afterwards. I'd like to pass over to Ali for the closing comment. Ali, you from a UAE, from a Dubai perspective, what message do you send to this audience, or from a regional perspective?
One of the things is that to reach expertise, you need knowledge. You need to experience the whole cycle of getting into the cybersecurity and protecting yourself, like George mentioned, in every aspect, every industry, not specifically finance. It's just because recently there have been digital banks in UAE which have launched, like Weo Bank, and you have Maria Community Bank, and you have Zan Bank, which was a couple of years ago, but these are the banks which are in the digital field. And you notice that these are new. Are they completely blockchain or not? This is something in discussion with them. But however, the emphasis of cybersecurity has to come from the federal level. The federal level rules, regulations to ensure that the entities are protected in a closed environment, centralized, decentralized, that would come into another discussion. But again, looking at the first security side of protecting every consumer, everybody being attached from the entry point coming into the UAE and getting in touch, let's say just by internet. And then that's where the journey starts. Banking is a big part of our life. Health and security is a big part of our life. And this is where the structure is going forward. Now we're in the early stage, like Naveen mentioned. It's just going to start now. And we have to keep things very well informed within the federal level, like the Ministry of Finance, National Security, TDRA, UAE Central Bank, ESCA, Dubai VARA, DFSA, and FRSA from ADGM and DIFC. They will come in with their own securities and their own regulations within the whole structure of the crypto and the digital asset. And for sure, you can have the Dubai government side, Abu Dhabi government side, those initiatives that are coming in within the metaverse, and that outlook of how to protect everybody's digital footprint is something huge. So it's not going to stop here. I'm sure Naveen, George, and the panel here will keep on going forward and hardcore, because if you want to try something, you're in the right place. This is where you're going to get your best performance done, tested, and make sure that this is where it's going to grow, if there is any growth going to happen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Can we have a big hand for our panelists? Just at the start of the journey, of more vulnerabilities emerging, I'm sure, every day. So I think I got time for one question from the audience. So has anyone got a really burning question?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm interested, I'm Gilbert Réveillon. I'm highly interested by the quantum safe situation and the NIST in the US who propelled 4 different algorithms to help any supplier to the US government if they want to sell any product in the future, which is by the end of 2023, they will have to comply with this NIST quantum safe compliance.
So the question, if I summarize it, I wanted to make it easier, is will quantum be a problem, yes or no, based on what you said? I mean, it's going to be a big discussion otherwise, which is a good discussion to take off the stage, but I'll give everyone a chance to say yes or no to that. Maybe I'll start with Jorge and work back to Matthew.
Quantum is only a problem if you do not address it. For example, the Ethereum blockchain has already partially addressed the quantum problem by introducing a salt, which is a kind of a random number in the creation of some of the transactions, so you cannot reverse engineer them. So the solution to solve the quantum problem is available. You just need to implement it, that's all.
Ali, any comment from your side?
I wouldn't get into the technical side of things, but if it's about having things done within a specific quantum term or any other application and you have to use it, it's about making the right usage and the right flow of information going through that. It has to be tested in the right norm, in the right ecosystem, in the right format, with the governments or with the federal or the private sector looking at what would be beneficial to take this to another level, which is implementation within their own ecosystem. And that will make the ease of using it specifically for selling products or going usage for any data transfer between the countries or any other state. That would be very, very initial aspect of the federal level before the state level looking at it.
Naveen, any points to add?
Yeah, just shortly. So I don't think that quantum computer is a potential threat for the blockchain. It might be yet, but I know a lot of very, very smart brains which are actually working on it from the decentralized space also. So it's parallelly. So the quantum computer is coming up, the use case, and at the same time the security part and the blockchain vulnerabilities are going less. So it's parallelly going with each other.
Julian?
Yeah, I think it is a threat in the next 5 to 10 years, but I think there are much higher cyber threats at the moment. For public blockchains, I think it is going to be a threat for Bitcoin, for example, because they can't implement the technology as fast as maybe quantum computing is developing.
And I think your question was directed at Matthew, right? So probably you guys should take half an hour after this to go over it in detail, but Matthew, I'll give you the chance to respond.
Yeah, so the about quantum resistance, it's not a blockchain-specific problem. This is a general IT problem, so it's nothing specific to blockchain. But to combat it, if you go to NIST and look at many of the public blockchains are using SHA-2 as a hashing algorithm. If you upgrade that to SHA-3 512, that's already ruled by or deemed by NIST as a quantum proof. So it's a matter of upgrading the encryption mechanisms and the hashing algorithm, and what is required to be quantum proof is already, the guidance is already provided. So I think it's just a matter of implementation.
Well, there we go. So, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen in the audience, thanks very much for the time. My closing comment is that you know that perception is the best form of deception. And finally, I was able to get everyone to disagree at the end. So thanks very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Angus. Thank you guys for the amazing panel discussion. We have another one in a couple of minutes, so please stay here and don't go away. Thank you.